When The Untamed first aired in 2019, few could have predicted that a fantasy drama set in a world of cultivation, ancient clans, and mystical power would ignite one of the most powerful fan movements in modern entertainment history. Yet at its core, the show wasn't merely about swords and spirits, it was about connection. And at the center of that connection were two faces that would soon become global icons: Zhan as Wuxian, the mischievous, rebellious soul cultivator, and Yibo as Wangji, the stoic, disciplined counterpart who seems carved from ice, until the warmth of friendship and fate begins to melt him. Their on-screen bond transcended dialogue. It was in the way Wangji's gaze lingered a heartbeat too long, or how Wuxian's laughter filled the silence between them like sunlight piercing through mist. Viewers around the world felt something shift, something electric, unspoken, and deeply human. That feeling became a phenomenon, the birth of a global obsession. When The Untamed premiered on Tencent Video, it was adapted from the Danmei, Boys Love, novel Mo Dao Zhu Shi by Mo Xiang Tong Xiao. But due to censorship in China, the series had to tread carefully, transforming a love story between two men into a deep brotherhood. Yet audiences could read between every glance, every pause, every breath. Zhan and Yibo delivered performances so emotionally precise that the air between them seemed alive, crackling with unspoken words. Fans didn't just watch the show. They felt it. And soon, fandoms erupted across Asia, the Americas, Europe, and beyond. Twitter threads turned into essays. TikTok edits became cinematic montages. Fan fiction multiplied like wildfire. The chemistry between the two leads didn't just define a show, it created a movement. The scene that changed everything. It's nearly impossible to pinpoint the exact moment The Untamed became more than a fantasy drama. But most fans agree, it happened in that scene. The rain was falling hard, the world drenched in shadow. Wuxian, his robes torn and his smile trembling, looked up to see Wangji standing there, drenched but unmoving, holding his sword like a silent promise. No words were needed, just a glance, one filled with pain, love, and centuries of reincarnated fate. For a brief second, time seemed to stop. The audience wasn't watching two characters anymore. They were witnessing souls colliding. That scene alone spawned millions of edits, remixes, artworks, and discussions. Fans dissected every flicker of emotion, every subtle muscle movement in Zhan's face, every restrained breath from Yibo. And that's when it happened. The internet realized this wasn't just acting. It was alchemy. From screen to real life, the XC and WYB dynamic. As The Untamed exploded in popularity, the fascination expanded beyond the show. Fans began to notice the genuine friendship between Zhan and Yibo off-screen. Behind-the-scenes videos showed them laughing quietly between takes, teasing each other, sharing food, and occasionally exchanging those effortless, natural smiles that made fans' hearts race. The contrast between their real personalities made their bond even more magnetic. Zhan, gentle and refined, a perfectionist with a painter's soul, always polite, always smiling. Yibo, cool, mysterious, a motorbike racer with sharp humor and sharp eyes, quiet but deeply loyal. Together, they were yin and yang, opposites that completed each other, both on-screen and off. Fans began calling them Zhan or Wuxian, blending their names and their characters' identities. Their bond was immortalized not just through scripts, but through the collective heartbeat of millions of fans. The Untamed concerts, a living legend. When the Untamed cast held live concerts in 2019, the atmosphere was electric, more like a sacred gathering than a fan event. As Zhan and Yibo stood on stage, dressed once again in their iconic robes, something extraordinary happened. Thousands of fans sang in unison, chanting, weighing, Zhan, as if summoning the characters from another world. Tears streamed down faces in the crowd. Glow sticks waved like stars. And when Zhan smiled at Yibo, just for a second, the crowd screamed so loudly the air itself vibrated. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was transcendence. That moment symbolized how fiction had blurred with reality. The line between actor and character had dissolved, leaving behind a shared mythology. The fandom that redefined devotion. The Untamed fandom became something the world had never seen before. They weren't just fans. They were creators, archivists, protectors, and storytellers. They translated scripts into dozens of languages. They organized charity drives in Xiao and Wang Yibo's names. They created virtual museums of fan art, fan fiction, and essays analyzing everything from the show's use of light and color to the psychology of Wangji's silence. This wasn't fandom, it was a cultural force. The global spread was stunning. In Thailand, fan cafes displayed murals of Wuxian and Wangji. In Brazil, groups hosted watch parties. In the US, conventions dedicated panels to the Untamed and its social impact. Everywhere, the message was the same: love that transcends language, gender, and time. The storm and the strength. But no phenomenon is without its storms. In 2020, a fanfic controversy involving Xiao fans accidentally triggered a massive online backlash known as the 227 incident. Overnight, Xiao became the target of one of the largest cyberbullying campaigns in Chinese internet history. Brands dropped him. Trolls flooded social media. He disappeared from public view for months. And yet, the fans never abandoned him. They rallied, spreading positivity, organizing charity events, and sending millions of supportive messages. When Xiao eventually returned, with grace, humility, and quiet determination, it became one of the most powerful comebacks in entertainment. His solo work flourished. His acting deepened. His performances in The Wolf and The Oath of Love proved that he wasn't just a pretty face born from a phenomenon, he was an artist forged by it. And through it all, The Untamed remained his anchor, the story that had changed everything. Art, devotion, and the language of emotion. What makes the Xiao The Untamed wave so lasting is that it wasn't just about celebrity. It was about emotion. It showed how art, when performed with sincerity, can cross borders of language and culture. It showed how a fantasy about two cultivators from ancient China could speak to something universal: the longing for connection, loyalty, and love unbound by rules. And in Xiao performance, audiences saw a rare purity. One scene that fans still whisper about is the Wuxian scene. Wangji sits behind Wuxian, his fingers brushing the strings of the Wuxian, sending vibrations that ripple through the air and through Wuxian's soul. There's no dialogue, just music, eyes meeting, the sound of heartbeats synchronized. It's a scene that defies explanation, a moment that feels like poetry captured in motion. It's one of those rare cinematic experiences that makes you feel like you've witnessed something sacred. How Xiao became a symbol. For millions, Xiao became more than an actor. He became a symbol of resilience, kindness, and authenticity in an industry often defined by chaos. When The Untamed first graced our screens, no one could have guessed that it would become a cultural tsunami, one that would ripple across continents and capture hearts from Beijing to Buenos Aires, from Seoul to San Francisco. At first glance, it was simply a historical fantasy about cultivation, clans, and mystical powers. But the truth? It was so much more. Beneath the ancient robes and celestial melodies was something raw, something human. And it all started with two souls colliding on screen, Xiao as Wuxian and Wang Yibo as Wangji. The moment the world fell silent. Picture it. A mountain shrouded in mist. The sound of a Wuxian, soft, trembling like a secret. Wuxian, with that half-smile that hides 1,000 stories, stands before Wangji, the stoic man whose silence speaks louder than thunder. In that moment, the world stops. The air feels charged, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. The two stare at each other, not as enemies, not as allies, but as two destinies entwined by fate. Fans would later describe that scene as a lightning strike to the soul. You could feel the tension, the admiration, the unspoken affection blooming beneath layers of restraint. The scene wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. It was something deeper. It was the kind of connection that transcends words, gender, even time itself. And Zhan, his eyes carried entire galaxies. His smallest smile could melt the frost of Wangji's centuries-old composure. The chemistry that broke the internet. There's acting, and then there's magic. What Zhan and Wang Yibo created wasn't just chemistry. It was gravitational. Every stolen glance, every brush of the sleeve, every heartbeat between their lines became a language fans learned fluently. In one unforgettable scene, Wuxian teases Wangji with playful laughter, circling him like a mischievous wind. Wangji's face stays unreadable, but for a second, the corner of his mouth twitches. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but fans caught it. They slowed it down, replayed it, zoomed in. That tiny smile became an event. It was proof that even the most stoic heart could be moved by the chaotic light that was Wuxian. And in that beautiful exchange of warmth and restraint, the world fell in love, not just with the characters, but with the story between the stories. When fiction became emotion. You see, what made the Untamed extraordinary wasn't just the plot, it was the emotion that bled through every frame. The camera didn't need to show romance openly. It was there in the quiet moments. The way Wangji's fingers trembled when Wuxian was in danger. The way Wuxian looked back one last time before walking into the shadows. These weren't just scenes. They were emotional earthquakes. People didn't just watch, they felt. Tears fell silently across living rooms around the world. Fans wrote about how the show helped them heal, how they found comfort in the bond between two souls who refused to let go of each other, even in death. It wasn't just about love. It was about loyalty, about destiny, about finding your person in a world determined to tear you apart. The birth of the cult following. Soon, social media couldn't contain it. Clips of Zhan and Wang Yibo went viral. Hashtags like #Wuxian forever, #Zhan, and #The Untamed were trending globally. Fans translated the entire show into dozens of languages. Others created fan edits that turned their scenes into music videos, slow-motion gazes set to heartbreakingly beautiful soundtracks. There were fan theories, artwork, even entire conventions where people dressed as Wuxian and Wangji, recreating their most iconic moments. One fan in Thailand painted a 30-foot mural of the duo, calling them the two souls that found each other beyond heaven. In Brazil, fans organized the Untamed Day festivals. In the Philippines, malls played the show's theme song, Wuji, while fans sang in harmony. It wasn't just fandom anymore. It was culture. The power of performance. What made this all possible was Zhan's ability to make Wuxian real. He wasn't just acting, he was breathing life into a legend. In one haunting scene, when Wuxian stands atop the cliff, laughing through tears as the world turns against him, Zhan doesn't need words. His eyes alone tell a story of betrayal, love, and courage. That performance became iconic. It wasn't exaggerated. It was painfully human. And Wang Yibo, with his quiet strength and piercing gaze, created a perfect counterbalance. His Wangji wasn't cold, he was restrained. His every action screamed emotion, yet his face rarely moved. That contrast, Zhan's chaos and Yibo's calm, became the show's heartbeat. Together, they formed a rhythm that audiences couldn't look away from. The moment that sealed their legacy. There's one moment every fan remembers, the scene where Wuxian plays his flute, the melody echoing through the fog. Wangji hears it and turns, the faintest smile touching his lips. In that instant, the two worlds, past and present, heaven and earth, align. You can almost hear the collective sigh of millions watching around the world. It wasn't just beautiful. It was transcendent. That single scene became a symbol of eternal connection, the belief that no matter how far apart two souls are, the melody of love will always guide them back. The ripple effect. Even after the series ended, the Untamed never really stopped. It continued to echo in the hearts of its audience. Zhan's portrayal became a reference point for emotional depth in acting. Fans described him as the kind of performer who makes you forget the camera exists. The show opened doors for international recognition of Chinese dramas, paving the way for cultural exchange and appreciation of Danmei storytelling. And at the center of it all was that bond between Zhan and Wang Yibo, between the characters they played, and between the millions of fans who found hope, art, and healing in their story.